everything that we teach on this podcast, all the tools that we have inside our toolbox to be able to deal with disagreements, it went out the window. Mm-hmm. And it's like none of that mattered.
What's up, real ones? Welcome back to the Relationship Podcast, where we're bringing the real back to relationships.
Yes, sir.
I'm Asha Steele.
And I'm Devin Steele.
And we're so excited that you guys are tuning in today with us.
Yeah, as you can hear in Asha's voice.
I sound a little rusty.
It's not a little rusty.
A little.
You raspy, rusty, whatever you want to say.
Voice, baritone.
Her voice is messed up right now. This is not a podcast
I don't
voice.
Even laugh the same. I sound like Quiet Storm.
Yeah. So this is not even a podcast voice, but we know we had to hop back on here. Asha will let you know sort of what she's been going through.
Yeah.
These past couple of weeks.
Yeah. We've been. Well, I've been going through the motions, y'all. As y'all can hear, my voice is going through it. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I had received a call that my uncle had passed away. And so I had to hop on a flight to go back home to my hometown for the service. And upon coming home, you guys, I got sick. And of course, I thought it was COVID.
The Rona.
I had spent all this time in the house. We had all these precautions, you guys, social distancing. We talked about on other episodes just to avoid the COVID. And sure enough, I thought I had the COVID. But
why you keep calling it the COVID?
The COVID, because there's so many different forms. I don't know which form to talk about. But I took a test. I took 2 tests, actually. They were both negative. So, you know, I guess I just got a common cold, which was, to me, it's so crazy because with everything going on, I automatically think, like, if someone is sick, like, that's what it
Everybody
is.
do.
Like, I don't even think, like, there's no such thing as a common cold anymore. It's
no
like,
such thing
what?
as the flu.
No,
coronavirus.
Everything is just corona.
Yeah.
COVID. But no, it was a cold. So, yeah, I'm trying to get over that. I've been drinking some tea, taking some medicine, trying to relax, rest my voice, you know. So I sound a little bit like
we ain't want y'all to hear what she sounded like last week. That thing was crazy. We wouldn't dare put that voice on the air.
No,
so
I was coughing. Y'all, no, that would have been a bad look.
Yeah, yeah. We knew we couldn't go 2 weeks not putting out a podcast. So y'all just gonna have to deal with how Asha's voice sound today. We gonna make it work. You know, I'm gonna do my thing in the editing, make her sound like, you know, she got the perfect voice for podcasting.
I sound like I have a voice of an angel.
All an angel.
Don't be a wise guy. But moving into it, you have any announcements that you want to get into it before we start?
Nah, I think we good on announcements. Yeah, no, we good.
Okay, so moving right along to our keeping it real moment, you guys. So I'm gonna just keep it real with y'all for a minute.
What you going to keep it real about?
Because to know me, you know that I am very much a clean, tidy person, right? Some may say I have
my goodness,
a little OCD.
I think I know where this is going.
Slightly, a little bit. But I have to keep things neat and tidy. Like, it just doesn't work for me. And, you know, my husband took on some projects. Okay. He took on the project.
I knew this was going this way.
The stairs. Okay. Redoing our stairs, which he said that I was helping him with, which I helped a little bit, but we're still in the process of those. And then, you guys, when I left, I left to go back home for the service. This man decided that he didn't want to do the backsplash by himself in our kitchen. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he calls me on FaceTime before I even arrived. So you just came home and just started knocking down walls. Okay. And the backsplash is gone. He just knocked down everything. I'm like, what is going on? I literally didn't even take off yet, and the house is already being, you know, in shambles. Okay.
I wouldn't call it shambles.
It was in shambles. Okay. Because mind you, he had to take care of Leah and Aria, who Aria nowadays wants to get into everything. Okay. So like I was saying, I'm very much this clean, tidy person. I like things to be a certain type of way. But my life right now feels like it's in shambles. Because when I try to clean, I can't really clean because everything is, still not where it needs to be. So I'm going to need us to get it together.
But how's the backsplash turning out, though? See, you let them know that I broke it down. But how about let them know how I built it up?
He did. So I'm not going to lie. I gave you credit with the steps because the portion of the steps that is slightly done.
It's not slightly done. I took care of the top. Listen, everything would have been done, but I had school. So school takes away so much of my time. Like, y'all have no idea. I graduate in 2 months, and that, although I don't want it to end, I need it to end because I need to free up my time. But when I be having those 9-hour days of just straight school, like nothing gets done after that. I'd be so tired from all the information we be learning in 9 hours and trying to process that. But now that I'm on like a 2-3 week break, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get the steps done, and I'm going to get the backsplash done. But that's the only reason why it's not done yet.
Yeah, you guys. That's one of the reasons why I did not want him to be doing the backsplash. But like he was saying,
you didn't say you didn't want me to do the backsplash.
I did in my mind.
All right, then. So,
but I did.
We talk on the podcast all the time about communication. We're not mind readers. So if you feel some type of way,
if we talk about communication, hold on. You didn't communicate. You were knocking down the walls.
I did. I FaceTimed you.
Yeah, they was already down.
All right. I still communicated that I did.
Yes, you guys. So communication. You see right there how we didn't communicate that? Yeah, that's it.
There's a lot of other things we ain't communicated about, but we're going to touch on that later in this podcast.
But you got jokes. But like you was saying, the backsplash is coming along slowly but surely. We're getting there. The process, we might have to show a little clip on our social media or mine's Asha Still on Instagram. So make sure y'all check it out. Just a little update of how we looking. But it's coming along. It's a process, but we getting there. Yeah. I just need him to get it there so that I can get my life. Because when my life ain't right, when things ain't in order, I'm just in shambles.
I just want to make sure that you give me my credit once it's done. I don't need you to go on your social media talking about look at what we did. Because
y'all know I ain't going to say I did that backsplash.
I tried to teach you how to cut towels and everything. It's just like.
But I was cutting some.
You was cutting them too small.
You know what? Moving right along, you guys. We're going to get into the question from our real one. So.
All right, let me pull this out real quick. Because this message is definitely for Asha. And it's crazy because right before we recorded, we went into our DMs to see what question we was going to pick or what message we was going to pick, and this one popped up. It says, my husband and I have been married for 4 years. He had a child before we got married, who at the time was about 16 months. He's going on 5 this year. I've never had an issue with him, but I've never been able to connect with him, and as of lately, I get this irritated attitude when he's around or comes over for his weekends. Sounds familiar. And it causes me to dismiss myself. My husband and I had our first together in July, and I definitely noticed it more after I had her. He doesn't speak to me unless his dad tells him to, and when I discipline or ask him not to do something, he looks at me like I have 6 heads. I'm just wondering how you took on the bonus mom role and if you felt any sort of resentment towards the baby mother or Devin, or just how you adjusted, especially after having your own. I know it's easier to connect with girls over boys, but I feel like the mother has a lot to say when he's over there and then carries it into our home when he comes to me. For example, he was playing with a soccer ball in the house and I heard it hit glass while I was in another room. And I told him not to play with the ball in the house, and he told me he's allowed to at his mom's house. And I had to explain to him that rules are different over here.
Girl.
I had to write her back and was like, yeah, we definitely going to use this message because you sound a lot like how we were. Yeah. So.
But no, I definitely feel, and it's crazy because I get a lot of messages that is just like so the situations are so similar that
Right.
so many women experience being in the position of being a bonus mom. So just to unpack it, because it is a lot.
How big is this suitcase we unpacking? Is it like the small one you took when you went back home recently, or just like we going on a week, 2 week
I usually
vacation?
don't take the small suitcase. It's usually a hefty. So it's gonna be a hefty, but I'm a kind of shorten it for y'all. But no, when we first started dating, I would say like there wasn't an issue, right? I went into our relationship, our situation before we got into a relationship, knowing, of course, you had a child, he had a child, and that wasn't. It didn't necessarily deter me. Okay, one, I honestly don't know why.
Yeah, because tell them about your checklist.
I did say that I did not want to date a man that had children because of experiences, not that I had seen being in a relationship, but from dealing with it within my own upbringing, right? Seeing what it is to be a bonus mom and how that was for me as a child, and even like family members, the stresses that come along with it and everything like that, and trying to blend a blended family. So from that, I was just like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And right. I would stay away from guys that had children in my earlier years. But
it was something about
when we first started talking, I don't know, like I don't want to be very like cheesy or cliche or anything like that, because it's the whole we were so much alike with like our birthdays, and then when we were talking, we were so similar. We had similar interests. We like acted alike in a sense. So it wasn't like, oh, is this fate? But it was just a connection that I was just like, okay, let me just see where it goes. Okay, don't just automatically check it off because he has a child or whatever the case may be. And so
hold on before you go in. So you're basically saying that whole list that women have of what they want from a man, it shouldn't be set in stone? Like some of it needs to be negotiable?
I feel like you can negotiate some things. I feel like it doesn't have to be like, okay, I don't want this or I don't want that, because being realistic, even as you get older and as time goes on, the list is going to be, especially with children, it seems like it's hard to find individuals who don't have children, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's how you handle, how the parents handle the situation. Okay. And so I'll go back to saying there wasn't an issue for me necessarily. I was talking to Devin when the time came around for me to meet Leah. I met her. The interaction was kind of like a little bit awkward at first because she was like so little. She was like 2, and she was just like kind of testing the water, like probably like, who is this woman? Because he hadn't, introduced any other females to her. So she's probably like, okay, what's going on?
So I told her.
Of course, you just start talking.
You ain't catch that, did you?
Yeah, you said so. You told me. Stop trying me. But so, of course, special. With them being at that age where they're 2, they just want to, know that someone is just like not being mean in a sense to them. They just want to have fun. They don't really know too much. They're kids. They're babies. So it was just a matter of, interacting with her, getting to know her, playing with her toys, and just making her feel comfortable. So it wasn't really hard initially. I feel like the issue... What?
That was a hard initially.
Because I feel like the issue that comes along with being a blended family, or even before getting to the blended family portion of just dating someone who has children, is how the parents handle it. How the opposite parent, whether it is being, the woman introducing a new man introducing a woman to it, and vice versa, it's how they handle it. Because a child is a child. Like, they can't really do too much. They don't really know too much. But it is what you're instilling in them, which is going to ultimately determine how that relationship blossoms. Right. And that was where it was very difficult in our situation, because I did not have a good relationship at all with her mom. And as she started to get older, things started to be poured into her that it affected our relationship.
Railroaded.
Completely off the tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, and we
Pelican,
talked about
what
this.
is it? Pelham 1, 2, 3 or something with Denzel joint where the train was just going crazy.
Yo, it was off. Like that. It was completely off, and I feel like people can kind of notice and pick up on that, and we touched on it a little bit in a podcast episode. But I'm a lot more discreet with my personal life. That's very meaningful to me, things that I don't want to necessarily share because it's a sensitive topic. And so this is why, like, sometimes in the messages or in our DMs, I try to communicate directly towards those messages because I know how it feels, but I don't really speak about it personally. But there was a portion of time where it was very bad, like Devin spoke about things that was going on with him and Leah's mom, with things that was outside of, what do you want to call it? Like court, in a sense, they have to get things situated. And so, as most people know, that causes a lot of tension, causes a lot of, riffraff, and that affects the child. And because of how things was handled, me and Leah's relationship was completely diminished. And so when she was to come with us, like how she said with, I can do certain things at my mom's house that I can't do here, it was a problem because all the parents, all the adults in the situation wasn't on the same page. So if it was things happening in one house, it was basically, it's okay. I wasn't respected as a parent, and it wasn't, told, oh, you should respect Asha as a parent, And so I think the biggest thing that you can do in those situations, male or female, father or mother, is to handle the child with care, handle the situation with care. Because if you know that someone is taking on that role to parent your child, to love your child, to be there for your child, like that is a huge role to fill, right? And I would never want for my child to feel any type of negative energy, to feel mistreated, to not feel loved because of my doings to someone else. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people think about that because we're all humans. If you're hurting as an adult, regardless of how much you want to say, oh, you're adult, that's the child, you have to think about how their emotions are and how they're going to handle it. Mm-hmm. And so in that situation, I feel like a lot of times you have to sit up there and you have to be mindful of that. So you have to talk as adults and say, you know what, this is what it is. You're married, husband and wife. This is who I am. This is my stepson. This is my stepdaughter. We have to communicate. We have to be on the same accord for her. No, y'all don't have to have a friendship. Y'all don't have to, do anything outside of the ordinary that you don't feel comfortable. But as a mother to your son, as a father to your son, it is your job to say, you know what, I want my child to feel safe and comfortable with someone else and that other person's care. So let me make sure that I'm respectable to this person, and let me make sure that I respect those person's rules when my child's not in my house, that they're understanding that they're respectful of that other adult. Because when you're playing the back and forth, petty, bitter, I just want to be nasty games, and you're including a child into that, they don't really know, right? Yeah. They love their parent. They're going to follow what they say, and that's only going to cause problems.
Yeah. And the kids, they feed off of that. Yes. They know when there's turmoil. They know when there's not a good relationship. So they be playing that fence. Mm-hmm. Kids are very smart in what they do. So if y'all don't show a united front, then it's going to cause a lot of issues. And that is the responsibility of the person who is bringing the child into that new marriage.
Absolutely.
Like one of the things that I felt that doing initially is bringing everybody together to have that conversation so that we can all be on the same page. Although people are going to parent differently, there has to be some type of understanding of how you want the child to be raised, the values that want to be that should be instilled in that child, the respect that every adult who plays a part in raising that child should garner. And if you're not showing that from both households, then the child is really going to struggle to do that as well because they're confused. At the end of the day, like even if his son loves you in that way, they're going to do what they need to do to protect the mom. You know what I mean? That's just how this goes. So until y'all sit down, have a conversation, and y'all just lay everything out, like lay everything out on the table, let them know how you feel. Like let the son speak up and just talk about what he's going through. Cause I think that was the shift for us. Like when we sat down, me, you, and Leah, and we just had a conversation and we laid everything out there. We let everybody share what they were going through, how it got to that point. And then we had a conversation with our mom all together to show Leah that we was on a united front and there wasn't going to be any playing any fences anymore. That's when we started having strides to go in the right direction. But it took for me to step up and say, you know what? I got to fix this. As a leader of the household, as, you know, the person who is bringing a child into this relationship, I have to fix whatever issues there are. So I just want you to know that it's possible for you to overcome the obstacles. It's not going to be easy. This journey for us has not been easy. Trying to navigate a blended family, it's hard, but it's possible. And every day, you know, we're constantly working. Like this is not something you can think that is all resolved and you just fall back and you don't continue to put forth that effort. Like this is something you have to continue to do because, you know, as kids get older, they go through different developmental stages in their life. And unless y'all are all on the same page, it's going to be hard, not only for the child, but on y'all as well. So you got to make sure you had that conversation, and hopefully your husband will listen to this podcast and realize that he has to step up and be that person that makes everything all right, that fixes this situation.
Yeah. But I will just to add to that, I would just say the thing that you can do, because your emotions and how you feeling with feeling like, you know, maybe you had that resentment or you may feel some type of tension towards your stepson. Understand that those feelings and emotions are valid. It's okay for you to feel that, and you can get through that. You just, like Devin said, have to communicate those emotions. And with him being so young, like you said, we had conversations, but because, you know, he's young, and even with Leah being that young at the time, trying to have those conversations, it really didn't penetrate the way that it did as she's getting older to really understand what's going on and the magnitude of it. So I would just say to really reinforce conversations with him of just expressing how much you care about him, how much you love him, doing things with him so that he can actually feel the love and feel that, you know, you're trying to build that relationship with him as well, incorporating him in things with, you know, you had a new baby girl. So just doing things like that to build the relationship, because the conversation as a whole with you, your husband, and your stepson is not really going to make that shift until he's a little bit older and he understands things in a certain light, right? So I think the main thing is having that conversations amongst the adults to understand, okay, we all need to be respectful of each other. Even if we may have issues, we need to resolve it amongst each other and not really have it affect the child. And make sure that if you're doing things in your house on one accord, that's fine, but it needs to be understood and respected that what we do in our house needs to be done this way, and what you do in your house needs to be done that way, and we both are on the same page and understand that. And I think if you can do that, it would definitely make a help. It would definitely be helpful in transitioning that relationship and those feelings that you have into a more positive light.
Yeah, and I definitely want to touch on something too, something I want you to keep in mind, because I know you talked about how, like, whenever he comes over, you dismiss yourself because you just don't feel comfortable in the same space as him. And like Asha said, those feelings are definitely valid. But you also talked, you also talked about how, like, when you try to discipline or telling him not to do something, he looks at you with like you got 6 different heads. So something I want you to really keep in mind is that you have to make sure that you're having positive interactions with him as well, instead of just corrective interactions with him. Like if you're dismissing yourself from the room and you're not really having that interaction with them, and the only time that you do is if you're correcting a certain behavior, then it could be the reason why he look at you like you got 6 different heads. It could be a reason why you're getting the response from him that you're doing. So you just want to make sure, and like I said, this is going to take time, but you got to make sure that you're having positive interactions with him as well, instead of just having corrective interactions. So.
Yes. So getting into today's discussion, you guys.
I'll take it over.
I bet.
No. Listen. So, like we tell you all the time, like, man, this podcast is really about us keeping it real and sharing our truth so that you guys can relate to some of the struggles that relationships go through. Mm-hmm. And last week we had a real struggle as a married couple. And we wanted to take this week to really talk about it. Like, we don't want to just share our highs that we have as a married couple, but we also want to show you our lows so that we can show you how we work through those lows together. So like Asha said, last week it was a tough week for us. Mm-hmm. Like Asha was going through something with her family. Her uncle had passed away, and it's a tough time for her family because her grandmom also passed away to the same thing that her uncle did. So she's going through a lot of stuff with that situation. And then I had a lot of stress from school. Like, it just felt like I had the world on top of my shoulders. And we ended up having a disagreement last week. And mind you, we always talk about on this podcast that when you're going through tough times, you have to learn as a couple to turn towards each other instead of turning away. And we had a disagreement. We're not going to go into details about what the argument was about, but it just went all the way left.
Yes.
Like, when I say all the way left, it went all the way left. Like, it started off calm and peaceful, and then it just went left. Mm-hmm. And it's like everything that we teach on this podcast, all the tools that we have inside our toolbox to be able to deal with disagreements, it went out the window. Mm-hmm. And it's like none of that mattered. Mm-hmm. And it was like a yelling match and then walking away and then going to sleep, not resolving the issue. I don't know who came up with the never go to sleep anger. I don't know how that's possible to handle every situation like that, especially if it's an argument at night. But it just went all the way left.
Yes. Because I definitely went to sleep mad.
So did
y'all know how mad I went to sleep?
How mad did you go to sleep?
I went to sleep in Arya's room, okay? With Arya. And y'all know it's been a struggle to get her out the bed. But I said, no, today you going in your bed and mama going in there with you, okay?
Because and the crazy thing, she even let me know because we was all in the bed together, mm-hmm. right? And I must have dozed off or something. But I'm staring at the ceiling like I'm not even going to go to sleep. But I ain't even talking, bro. I'm just going to sit here. And then I must have went to sleep because it was mad late. And then I woke up in the middle of the night. I look over. She left the lights on. Disrespectful. Remember the other podcast I told you how, like, if I fall asleep, she'll put the blanket on me and kiss me. And I ain't get none of that. Cold as I don't know what. And I went to roll over and nobody was there.
Yes.
I said, no,
but
she didn't.
But can y'all imagine? I know y'all know how mad you have to be to like be mad and try to fall asleep and the other person fall asleep.
Yo, that's why I wasn't listen. That's why I wasn't trying to fall asleep because I saw you looking at me at the corner of your eye. So I said, yo, if I fall asleep, she gonna be even more pissed. So I'ma just sit here. I'm not going to fall asleep. I'm just going to look at the ceiling or whatever. And then I don't know what happened to me, but I fell asleep. So when I woke up, I was like, I knew she was going to be pissed, but they wasn't there. And I was like, oh, this is about to be real.
Yeah. But yeah, you guys, I had a good night's sleep, even though I went to sleep mad. But yeah, it was a lot. And I feel like you said, we have tools and resources and, it's things that we're practicing, that we implement, that we tell individuals. But there are times when you're going to get in the heat of the moment and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it's like everything, like you said, is out the window. Like, we're starting from point A And what are you even talking about? Like, it's like a foreign language. Like, you don't even know anything because you're doing the complete opposite of everything that you learned. And that was where we was at. And I feel like a lot of times, like you said, it's so many contributing factors that caused it, right? It's like we had a lot of built up frustration and built up things that we were going through as individuals, right? And it was hard to really stay the course and really use those tools and resources because as humans, like, your emotions sometimes take over.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. And in that, not even in that moment, but as, you know, time passed and the next day came around, we were able to really settle in what happened and really dissect the things that we said or the things that we did and how we handled things in the wrong manner and be able to have a conversation. And I think that's so important, like you said, for us to talk about, because a lot of times in those moments, people think, oh, you know, now we're back at square one. We got to start all the way over, right? Yeah. Oh, it's so horrible. Our relationship is so messed up. You think the worst of the worst because you have a few steps backwards. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important to show yourself grace within those moments because you're human. Right. Things are going to happen. You're going to go off course in life sometimes. But if you pick yourself up, you can still go along that same path. You don't have to start a new path. And I think that's what the importance of talking about our disagreement and how we handle it now is so important because we had those conversations. We were able to say, you know what, let's go ahead and take this time. Like you said, don't go to sleep mad. Nope, we was knocked out. Knocked out. Sleeping peacefully.
I didn't know I was mad when I was asleep.
And woke up and really was able to say, you know what, let me think about this. Let me have my time to myself. Let me have my peace. Let me reflect on what I did wrong, how I handle myself, and let's have a conversation. Yeah. Let's hear each other out. Let you say whatever it is that you have to say, how you process things, and how I process things, and now let's discuss. You know?
Yeah, because our tools are meant to stop the disagreement from escalating. Mm-hmm. But it's like once me and Asha get to a certain point, it's hard for us to resolve an issue without us taking a break and really allowing us to work through the emotions, right? Mm-hmm. Because what the space did for me is I didn't even think about all the stress that we were under, right? I'm just looking at it as, man, we going through something, like we going through this back and forth, like what are we going through this for? Right. But as I sat back and processed it, like, yo, I was under this amount of stress. Asha was going through this. Like, this probably is, it's not even as serious as it seems, like, with the argument. But there's a little problem that we're working with on top of a bunch of stress. Yes. And that can just cause an explosion. And by me being able to take that time and that space in order to really work through it, I was able to approach Asha like, yo, this is my bad. This is what I'm going through, and this is what caused me to react this way. Mm-hmm. Like, let's sit down and have a conversation about what that issue is, because if we just say, okay, we're forgiving and just keep going about our business, there's still that underlying issue that if we don't resolve, it's going to become a big issue, and we're not going to need that added stress for us to explode like this. The fact that the problem wasn't resolved is going to be the reason why it happened. So being able to sit down and first take responsibility for what I did was huge in helping us be able to conquer that issue.
Yeah, I think that was major on your part, because not to say that doesn't typically happen.
Yeah, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. I'm just going to be real with y'all, because I'm hardly ever wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So he likes to admit, but being able to hold yourself to a certain level of accountability to say, you know what, I did this wrong. I was coming from this space, and really use the tools that we had to like reverse and go backwards and fix it. I think that was very helpful, and it allowed for like me as well to handle things in a certain manner, to see why you did react the way that you react, to see why I reacted the way that I reacted, and how I could have done things differently, and owning up to my part and saying, you know what, well, this is what is triggering this, or this is what caused this. How can I fix this? Because I feel like a lot of times you didn't even notice that you're not communicating certain needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may think that person automatically knows, right? You automatically know that I'm going through stress of some sort because of something that happened to me. If you're talking about, losing a family member or losing a job or whatever the case may be, you may think, oh, this person, my partner, already knows that I'm under a certain amount of stress. But they don't truly know how it deeply is affecting you unless you speak up about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and having that conversation to say, you know what, I feel very weak right now. I'm very vulnerable right now. I'm very emotional right now. Like I really don't know how I'm picking myself up day by day to get through it because I don't have the energy to really let that person understand where you're at mentally, physically, emotionally, so that they can have a clear understanding of how you're feeling and what may contribute to that breakdown or that breakthrough. You never know. So being able to communicate and verbalize that to your partner so they can say, okay, well, maybe let me handle them with care. Let me handle this situation like this. Let me be mindful of the things that I'm saying and how I react to things so that it doesn't get to that point, right? Mm-hmm. And if it does get to that point, like you said, because we're all human and things happen, then okay, well, now how do I move forward? Yeah. How do I take accountability and understanding, validating their feelings and say, you know what, let's clean this up. Let's fix this because it's not worth us going down a spiral or us breaking up or us, not being on good terms because we didn't communicate those issues.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think that like when you have a negative interaction like me and Asha had last week, the key is to not allow your relationship or your marriage to go on a downward spiral. Mm-hmm. At one point, somebody has to say, you know what? This is not worth it. Right. Like winning the argument is not worth it. Like waiting for that person to come apologize to me because I felt like I didn't do anything wrong is not worth it. Like I want this marriage to work. I want this relationship to work. So I'm going to step up and I'm going to take ownership over the things that I did. Mm-hmm. That's so important. And I think that is what helps me and Asha get through the tough things that we go through. Like we all going to go through things as a couple at some point in time. But what is that glue that really holds y'all together? And I know for me and Asha, like people ask us all the time, like, how do y'all get through the hard things? And I truly believe is because me and Asha, we built our relationship off of character, right? There's 3 different ways you can build a relationship. One is off of utility, what the person can do for you. The other is off of pleasure, like what pleasure you get from the relationship. And the best way to build a relationship is off of character because character encompasses utility or it doesn't, but it can encompass utility and pleasure. So like, let's say that you got with me because I'm in the NFL and I can buy you this, that, and the third or pay for your bills. The moment that I stop paying your bills, what does the relationship stand on? Mm-hmm. Right? So you end up separating. If it's based off of pleasure, like us traveling all over the world and then we can no longer travel because things happen, what is your relationship based on? Mm-hmm. But when it's based off of character, it means that you see something in the person that you want to see grow. You see something in the person that really complements you. So when you fall on tough times, you rely on that character in order to help you get through it. And that has been the situation from us. Like, no, every moment is not going to be pleasurable in a relationship. But because we truly love each other for who we are, who each other is, we're able to work through the tough situations that we go through as a couple. So that has really been our backbone, and it's important for us to share those moments with you guys because we want y'all to see that everybody goes through their go-through. It doesn't matter how many tools you have in the toolbox. Sometimes things are going to be broke for a little bit before you can fix it because you have to get a better understanding of what it is you're going through. And like Asha said, you don't want to, if you have an argument, you don't want to discredit all the work that you've put in for so long. Like, oh man, now we're back to square one. No, we fell off yesterday. We're not going to bring up the things that used to happen in the past because we're no longer those people from the past. We've made tremendous strides, and we're not going to discredit all the work that we put in. We're just going to get back up and continue on the path that we have already blazed for ourselves and learn how we can grow from that. Like Asha said, we grew from a sense where it's like, no, we have to communicate more about what we're going through, because then that allows your partner to know how they can show up for you in the right way. That allows your partner to know, I have to give this person more grace because I know they're going through a tough situation. So how they're communicating things wouldn't be how they would normally communicate it because they're going through something right now. Mm-hmm. So I think we had to sit down and really learn how we can grow so that we don't experience what we experienced last week moving forward. And if we do get to that point, we know how to handle it.
Yeah. I just wanted to say this before we wrapped it up, because I think it was eye-opening to me to see how we handle things in that situation, right? Because we talk about all the time, our shortcomings and things that we, challenges that we overcame, and how we, was going through our rough patch in the beginning, right? And how we didn't have these tools. And so since being able to implement these tools and starting our podcast and how we interact with each other now, especially since having Aria, right? It was like I said, eye-opening, because the love that we pour into each other, it pours over into her, right? Mm-hmm. She is such a loving child. She's so affectionate. She's very attentive. She loves when we love, right? Mm-hmm. It for some reason it fills her up, and it's just because we just have poured this love into our relationship and trying to better ourselves in a sense for her, right? And for our family. And I notice in those moments of us not being on the same page, and in those moments of us having the disagreement or trying to be mad and not really communicate effectively and speak, how it affects her, because she's still expecting that love. Mm. She's still wanting that affection and that attention, that cohesiveness that she's so used to since she's been born with mommy and daddy, right? And waking up, not having daddy there, oh, where's daddy, right? When she's used to that, not having the, group hugs and the kisses and stuff, that's hurtful, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's not the environment that we created. And so it was eye-opening to me to see that, especially now that she's talking a lot more, for her to verbalize things that she's expecting from us, from our relationship.
She probably not expecting too much because she getting her ass up out of her room soon.
But not even just that. It's just it was just you know what? We can't allow for this to continue on, because I know, we talked about before, a lot of times in our relationship, we could go for an extended period of time of just being mad, right? Just holding on to this anger and this frustration, not wanting to be the person to speak up first or apologize first or to say something about it or take accountability. And it's you can't do that. You can. Some people do. But for me, it's we can't do that when you're trying to raise children in your household, because that pours into them, right? And you want to not only just fill them up with the love, but you want to continue to fill your relationship up with that love. And we've been on this path and making these strides for so long, just to see, like I said, take a few steps back. It's whoa. I ain't come this far to get just this far, right? Yeah. This is not what we're doing. We're not backtracking. So let's go ahead and fix this, right? And that's why I said it was important for us, the next day, to have that conversation, to communicate, this not it. Because truthfully, I wanted to be sleeping in my bed. I was uncomfortable upstairs. But I had to stick to it. I had to commit, because I made a decision. I had to commit to it.
Ain't that the worst? When you make a decision, you I'm gonna show him.
Okay.
I didn't even know you left until I woke up in the middle of the night and it's 3 a.m. I'm like, dang, she left me down here cold. She probably turned up the AC on purpose because she knew I ain't have a blanket on. She left the light on because she know the light will make somebody wake up.
Okay.
She did me dirty, but I'm happy to hear that you didn't have a good time sleeping yourself. So we on the same page. But now I'm glad that we were able to work through it. because that's not something we could do in the past. Like, we probably would have been mad at each other for a long time. But we've made strides. We've learned how to handle conflict in a way where it's like, you're not even trying to point the blame. You're just trying to find out what needs to be done in order to move forward. And I think that when you get to that point in a relationship, when it's not about who can win the argument or who can put the blame on the other person, but it's like, yo, how can we just resolve this issue? Then that's when you're in a great place in your relationship, because you're never going to be without issues. It's not possible. You're two different people growing together, trying to create a life together. And you're going to bump heads sometimes. And it's okay. Like we said, don't allow it to put your relationship or your marriage on a downward spiral. Like, find a way to resolve it, pick yourself up, and continue to move forward. And that was the importance of us making this episode today. If we didn't talk about anything else, we wanted to talk about this. And I know we ain't letting y'all on the details, so it may seem like we talking in circles, but hopefully you understand the point of this is that no marriage is perfect. Even us who have this podcast, who teaches you guys all the tools on how to have a marriage that flourishing doesn't mean that you never have negative experiences. It means that you are able to bounce back from that and continue on your path to the goal that you have set for you and your family. So for those of you who are out there who feel like, there is that perfect marriage or that perfect relationship, and you look down on your own, we're here to tell you, we go through the same issues that you go through. But when we said I do, we meant it. And we're dedicated to doing whatever is necessary in order to make this work. And we hope that you take that same type of dedication into your relationship, because like Asha said, it impacts way more than just you and your partner, but it impacts all the people who love and care about you as well.
So, like Devin said, we hope you guys enjoy this episode and learn something from it. Until next time, you guys, keep it real.
Yes, sir.